And a good Tuesday afternoon to everyone. Unless you're out in Europe, then it's Tuesday night. But welcome to a new episode of Plate Exchange. I'm Steve with On the Ring Apron representing Mania Club on this very special September, of course, Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at the Mania Club Facebook page, make sure you take a second to do so. We actually are running some auctions right now that are helping to benefit Connor's Cure. Some last opportunities to be able to get some great items. We've got T-shirts from youth sizes all the way up to adult. I've actually put my entire Fiend cosplay from a couple of years ago, as well as the Bray Wyatt lantern from when he was the Fiend, up for auction as well. Both of those are going very nicely so far. There's a number of other items, action figures, signed memorabilia. So a whole lot of things, and every bit of it benefiting Connor's Cure via the Mania Club. So definitely take a second to go check out all that stuff. There's a lot of fun items you can put a bid on for and get some wonderful memorabilia and support a very good cause. Of course, we're benefiting Connor's Cure, and Mania Club is continuing the fight against pediatric cancer. That's what our entire foundation is based on, so we definitely want to make sure that we're continuing. So this is actually a very special episode. All proceeds and gifts that we receive for this particular show, we are going to donate all of that to Connor's Cure for this particular show. So anybody that's joins us here on the chat, and we'll remind you a couple of times throughout it that any of your donations and stuff for this particular show, as well as for our Top Rope spoilers tomorrow for this Saturday's NXT No Mercy, is going to go as a sponsorship and as a donation to Connor's Cure. So definitely make sure you think with your heart, as well as your wallet a little bit. But, every little bit helps, even, a couple of dollars, could be the world of difference to somebody that's out there battling pediatric cancer. These children didn't ask for any of this, and yet you see them fighting so hard and so strongly for things like this. So we definitely want to make sure that we are doing our best to continue the fight, even outside of the months of September. But with that, we will go ahead and move into our show. As you can see from the nice little picture up in the corner, although it's kind of small, we do have 3 belts that we are going to be presenting in this particular show. The first is our new Women's Tag Team Champions. It seems like every show we have a new set of champions on here, but apparently this one will be no exception. As with the unfortunate knee injury to Sonya Deville, we do have new women's tag team champions. Chelsea Green was teamed with Sonya Deville. We've actually seen a couple of title changes. Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey had it for a while. Ultimately, after Shayna turned on Ronda, they inevitably went to Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan, who then were beaten by Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. And then with Deville's injury, Chelsea Green ran her special run to try to get herself a new partner. And ultimately, Piper Niven decided that she was not just she was going to voluntold her services to Chelsea as her new tag team partner. So the new champions currently are the team of Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, and we have been blessed in order to be able to receive their plates. We haven't done an exchange since Shayna and Ronda lost the championships, so that is still the plates that we have on here. The titles have changed so many times that we never got an opportunity to do a new episode, but we do show the Shayna Baszler plates on this one side, and then we show the Ronda plates here on the other side. So we'll be exchanging those here shortly, but let me give you a quick view of the new plates for each of our 2 new champions, that being, as I said, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. Get them out of the box here, because it's being very uncooperative. But ultimately, first we'll begin with Chelsea's. Very generic, straightforward, nothing too overly special, but getting her name on it. I kind of wish maybe they had done it in italics, so that way Samantha Irving's intros could have been a little more thing. I won't try to justify, because I won't do it any justice. And ultimately, Piper Niven's, hers is a little bit tougher to see, but ultimately she has just the standard Piper Niven that you see from her Titantron entrance. But against that gold background, it's a little bit difficult to be able to spot hers. But they are the current champions, so we will have a chance to throw some new plates on here. And, of course, one of the biggest conversations that we're going to throw in here, and anybody that's watching us live, as well as anybody that is joining us for the re-showing on our social medias, primarily YouTube, definitely make sure you throw your information in the comments. But the first conversation, the first topic, of course, is WWE does have new ownership, as we are now owned by TKO Holdings, who is also, of course, the works under the company called Endeavor, and allows for WWE to now be owned by the same company that owns the UFC as well, even though they'll still operate as two separate entities. So for the first time in the history of the company, WWE is now being run by people of, at least majority ownership is being run by people that are not members of the McMahon family. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things are going to turn. Immediately, you've already seen some major adjustments to make things look good from a show standpoint, as on the very first show under the new regime, you had Becky Lynch win the NXT Women's Championship on NXT. We will be seeing her plate shortly here. She is our quote-unquote main event of this particular show. And then you, of course, had the big appearance of The Rock, the return of Pat McAfee. You're seeing, of course, John Cena now actively being back in storylines again. And it looks like his contract, which was originally set to go only until about Survivor Series, now looks like it's going to extend a lot further. It's looking like maybe he's heading towards closer to the Royal Rumble. He, of course, is going to likely appear in a match in Saudi Arabia, which is a location that he has not had a match in before, but it looks like he's heading to Crown Jewel here in a couple of weeks. So already you're seeing, the larger pockets of Endeavor already kind of flexing its financial muscle, bringing in some big names to get some folks that you've heard of onto storylines and onto TV each week, to give them every opportunity to be able to have as many eyes on it as possible. One thing, of course, of note is one face you're not seeing on a regular basis is our current undisputed champion, and that is Roman Reigns. Currently, I think it was always the plan that he would take a little bit of a break after his victory over Jey Uso at SummerSlam, but inevitably he is disappeared, and now it appears that he will not be defending his championship again until Crown Jewel in early November, so we are still looking at another month plus before we're going to see Roman Reigns back in the ring. He'll no doubt, appear on Smackdown, but the expectation is that he's not going to wrestle again. And now you wonder, folks like part-timers like Brock Lesnar and Goldberg caught a lot of flack years ago for being part-time champions that ultimately only defended their championships once in a blue moon. It'll be curious to see if, despite the popularity of the Bloodline storyline and whatnot, and his looking like his inevitable rematch against Cody Rhodes coming up at WrestleMania later this year, if they will, if Roman will catch the same flack for that, or if ultimately he will continue his level of popularity. So that's our first topic, and just, throwing it out there, allowing everyone to put in your 2 cents. So let me know what you think in the comments and what you guys think of it. But we have completed our first plate exchange for this particular one, and we now have our new women's tag team champions on there. That is Chelsea Green over there on, I guess it'd be your right, my left, and then we have Piper Niven's plates over on the other side. We will also get some photos of these that you can see on social media. So if you go to our Instagram, our Twitter, we will have photos up on this shortly. So I'm going to hand that off to Alyssa, one of my wonderful co-hosts. You can say hello.
Hello.
Hopefully everyone heard that. But Kia just got back from work, so she's getting herself more situated for the evening, but you'll see them both tomorrow for Top Rope Spoilers. And speaking of Top Rope Spoilers, we do have back-to-back weeks of events coming up. We have NXT No Mercy coming up from California this upcoming Saturday. The main event being Carmelo Hayes defending the NXT Championship against Ilya Dragunov, an instant classic earlier this year, with Carmelo just narrowly being able to edge out Ilya, albeit with maybe an unexpected assist from Trick Williams. Trick has now gone off to do his own thing, so Carmelo's going to have to take this one alone. Right now, we are also projected to see a match for the Heritage Cup, as Noam Dar is going to defend against the winner of tonight's matchup, I guess yesterday's if you're watching this on YouTube the next day, between, let's see, it was Butch and Joe Coffey. So it'll be interesting to see if they give Coffey the rub on that one, or if you'll go with the more favorable Butch, of course, a former UK champion himself. So that'll definitely present a good matchup this upcoming Saturday. You also have two behemoths of the ring in Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin set to go head-to-head against each other to find out who is the ultimate big, strong guy of NXT at the moment. And what is projected to potentially be the main event is an Extreme Rules match between the new women's champion Becky Lynch and the former champion Tiffany Stratton. We'll be seeing more on Becky's plates and, of course, her victory over Stratton on NXT 2 weeks ago coming up here shortly. But we'll go ahead and move on to another new champion that we do have here. One of the championships down in NXT currently held by Dominic Mysterio. He's holding the North American Championship and successfully defended last night on Monday Night Raw in a clean victory over Dragon Lee. Considering that you have the release of Mustafa Ali, more on this one shortly, it was curious to see if maybe there would be a swerve or something in terms of Dominic potentially retaining, but doing so maybe in a more heel-like fashion. But ultimately, they ended up having Dominic win in what was actually an extremely good match. So I don't know if Dominic's going to be on the card, but one person that we have also been seeing as champion over on Smackdown is his father, Rey Mysterio. Whether you think he's a deadbeat dad or not, he is still a Hall of Famer, and he is still a champion. And for the first time in quite some time, he is holding singles gold, and that is the United States Championship, dethroning the longest champion of the last 20 years in Austin Theory to win the championship away from Mr. A-Town Down. There you see the United States Championship with the Theory plates still on them, and we will be switching it up for Rey Mysterio's plates. So let me get you a quick glimpse at those. Take those out of the box. And both of the plates look exactly the same. But it is Rey's, one of his many, many luchador masks with 619 underneath it, a little cross at the top. I have a red one that is very similar to this, so if you ever go back and look for El Nacho, that is... actually, I don't know who that is. It's some mysterious person who keeps appearing on my social media. We'll never know his true identity. But either way, he's won singles gold. Of course, everyone, if you are aware of his storyline, watched as Rey Mysterio was not originally the person who earned the title shot against Austin Theory. It was actually his LWO partner, Santos Escobar, who earned the title shot. However, due to an injury from a backstage attack from Austin Theory, he ultimately ended up giving his championship match to Rey Mysterio, and Mysterio was able to successfully win the championship from Austin Theory. Mysterio has defended it several times, including giving Theory his rematch already. So ultimately, there is no continuation storyline, whether that means that Theory is heading on to bigger and better things, or whether that means that, you were just ready for a new champion to come in here. This one screw wants to play around with us. There we go. But ultimately, it's going to be interesting to see. I think a lot of people are kind of already familiar with where this is heading. Likely a Santos Escobar heel turn, either that or Dominic once again and Judgment Day potentially get involved in the storyline against LWO. Of course, we've already seen issues in the past with the current women's world champion Rhea Ripley and Zelina Vega. So it wouldn't be so far-fetched for Judgment Day to put themselves back in the line of fire in terms of LWO. But obviously Escobar potentially breaking off away from Rey Mysterio and eventually challenging for the championship is certainly not out of the realm, and right now most people believe is the likely path that this one is heading for. So we'll see. But one thing, that we have to take into consideration also, and it's kind of part 2 of our discussion here when it comes to the sale of WWE to Endeavor. And again, I want you to, definitely give us your thoughts and your comments in the chat box, and let me know your opinion on this. That is not going in the way it's supposed to. There we go. I might have this on the wrong side. That's what I think I have. I think I have this on the wrong side. Do things live. This is what you get. Yep, there we go. All right. But something that, did change up, and, I made a little bit of a mention to it earlier, is the fact that we've had, of course, multiple people who unfortunately got released, wishing them all the best. A handful of names that, were big names with the company, such as Dolph Ziggler. A lot of people, after he wrestled in WWE for 20 years, he was definitely the prototypical company man, did everything the company asked of him and more. To see his career end by release is definitely tough. One of the Office folks that definitely shocked everyone was Dana Warrior getting released. She has been, of course, one of the heads for us in terms of Connor's Cure and the Warrior Award, which, of course, represents Conor Mahalik in his fight against cancer as the first winner. So that one definitely hit the Mania Club a little bit tougher than, maybe any of the others. But one of the other big releases was Mustafa Ali, who was actually scheduled to get a championship match against Dominic Mysterio this upcoming Saturday. His match, of course, now not going to happen. It's been taken off the books and whatnot, but Mustafa also having asked for his release for quite some time now. And ultimately, it sounds like he was finally granted that release. Other folks that you've heard, like the Dyad, was released about a week or so before the deal was made official with Endeavor. So you look at those two, and they're not here anymore. Top Dollar from Hit Row getting released. The rest of Hit Row's members are still part of the company for now, but Top Dollar going on social media basically saying everything he read is that Hit Row as a stable is dead at this point. I don't know what that potentially means in terms of the rest of the members, but, 2 of your 4 members now gone. You're down to Ashante the Adonis and BFAB being your only 2 members left. And, seeing how everything is going to continue to pan on that front. But, definitely you can see the changes already starting to form within WWE, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are in terms of the direction that they're heading. Are there any names that you think could be potentially next on the release list? Are there any other names that are in AEW or on the independent circuit that you would like to see join up on this new version of WWE? It seems like money's not going to be an objection, although I guess with the McMahon family it never has been. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of what it's going to look like over the next one, because they definitely have already made it clear that they want their first WrestleMania to be one that is going to be, bigger, brighter, better than it's ever been before. Our second plate exchange is complete. That brings the Rey Mysterio plates onto our United States Championship. Giving you a quick peek at those. Hooray, they're both right side up. I thought for sure I put one of them on upside down, which I have done before on the show. But it's nice to see both of those on here. Once again, we'll get photos of these on our social media, so be looking out for those. But that is exchange number 2. And one of the big changes you see, of course, a lot of the folks are, a little concerned and upset because there are some fan favorites that are no longer with the company or were released, and it's not just the men's division that has taken the hit. You see several people in the women's division, most of them in NXT. The biggest name one being, say, Dana Brooke, who had been part of the company for quite some time now, but ultimately ended up being very successful, was starting to get a storyline down in NXT, and ultimately it's not going to end up panning out for her to be able to finish that storyline, whether her release was simplistic. You see like Madcap Moss, Riddick Moss, now that he's gone back to it, and Emma both being released. Of course, they're together as a relationship, so I have a feeling it was probably one was released and the other asked for it, but only they know that answer. But you see the changes coming, and in one storyline that they've written, you can actually see the changes starting to form in terms of wanting to reintroduce you to the people that are still with the roster that feel like they haven't gotten their fair shake. And that is the story with the NXT Women's Champion, which is now the man, Becky Lynch. Becky, of course, getting called out by Tiffany Stratton after Becky's victory over Trish Stratus in the steel cage. And Tiffany essentially saying, hey, I'm better than you. I'm here to, there's nobody in NXT that can match me. I'm here to scout better competition. And essentially called out Becky for never having been champion like she was. Becky took offense to it, said, fine, I'll come down there and I'll go win the championship off of you. And she did. She went down to NXT, and a couple of weeks ago, she ultimately ended up winning the NXT Women's Championship and has been defending it very similar to the way John Cena did when he was issuing open challenges. He wants people that are on the roster that are getting overlooked to have the chance to show that they are still big. Natalya ultimately ends up answering one of the challenges, and then last night on Raw, Natalya ended up facing Tegan Nox, who is very quietly stayed under the radar, but Tegan able to beat Natalya to earn the shot at the next NXT Women's Championship after Tiffany this weekend. But as we said, we do have a new champion, so therefore we will be switching out the plates here. There is Tiffany Stratton's plates previously. The other side looks the same as well, but ultimately her being the previous champion, and then we do move on to our new women's champion, finally completing the Grand Slam run for her. Both the plates look the same, but it is the Becky Lynch symbol that went on the sleeve of her new lemonade t-shirt, but she started to use the cursive logo, and that's what they ended up choosing to use for her plates down in NXT. So we will go ahead and make that exchange there. But where I was typically going with this was seeing how Becky's storyline has been adjusted to essentially present the people of the women's roster and saying, hey, this is a person who's a huge name in here, and getting an opportunity very similar to, like I said, the way that Cena issued open challenges for the United States Championship years ago when he held the title. AJ Styles did it for a little while. But now you're kind of seeing that storyline, and one of the big news that came out today, and this is where you talk about all the releases of WWE, but you're also going to see an opportunity for new big names to be able to come to the company. But very rarely do you ever see it come in the form of like an official outlet reporting, but this one was, and it was the multi-year signing of AEW standout Jade Cargill. Everyone, of course, unless you've been living under a rocks or just refused to watch the other brand, she started a 60 plus match winning streak to begin her career in AEW. She was the TBS champion for well over a year, took on any and all comers, and essentially defeated them all. She ultimately ended up taking what was her only AEW defeat in what ended up being the second match of the night against a person who was already a multiple-time world champion in Chris Statlander. So ultimately, she has been everything that you would want represented in your women's division. Add in the fact that she is, extremely attractive. Add in the fact that she is African American, which gives her, a special place in terms of, representation within WWE. A lot of people have made the, rather obvious comparison of Jade Cargill to Bianca Belair. and the great work that Bianca has done with WWE. So I, like most people, do ultimately feel that, you are destined to have a Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair moment at a future live event, maybe even WrestleMania caliber. But the reality is, you don't see a ton of people ever get introduced by press conference or get introduced by, some type of media outlet. And yet ESPN saw this as enough of a major signing by WWE and by Endeavor that they decided that they needed to post the multi-year deal for Cargill on their site, and ultimately WWE confirming the news. Of course, I do my best to not talk too much about dirt sheets on here, but at the same time, you can't ignore the talent that Cargill brings. And the fact that they're willing to do this, I mean, you haven't seen a news like this really in the women's division since Ronda Rousey made her debut almost 6 years ago. And she's questionably, but by most people's standards, probably the second biggest person to come out of AEW back to WWE, minus, of course, Cody Rhodes. So it's definitely going to be curious to see how much influence did Cody have potentially in Jade making the decision to come over to WWE, or how much of it, of course, we've seen Jade on social media with a number of people. We've seen her in photos with Bianca Belair. We've seen her in photos with current Knockouts champion Trinity. So, she definitely, makes herself noticed and makes herself seen, but also she's proven that she is very well capable in the ring and is capable of being able to already be thrust into top-level status. Whether she's going to have a small NXT run, I don't know, or if she's just going to get introduced straight to the main roster. But it's definitely lives to be seen exactly just how good someone like Cargill can be. And now that you've got Rhodes and Cargill now both representing the run from AEW over to WWE, when you've seen the bridge be so much stronger going the other direction, now you're wondering if some of these deals when AEW got started, now those deals are starting to expire, and I wonder how many people potentially might shift the other direction and now may reconsider coming back to WWE or going to their next main front. But it's good to see that the storylines are already being presented to show the talent that WWE has, similar to the way Becky is setting up stories to bring Natalya and Tegan Nox back into the fold, as well as putting over people like Tiffany Stratton down in NXT. So I think a lot of people might question why Becky, outside of winning the Grand Slam, was given the title, but it makes sense if the goal of having her there is to put over not just NXT, but also the women's division. And that being said, I have completed the plate here and have kind of been just gabbing off at the mouth here, so my apologies to anybody who doesn't like my voice, but also if you don't like my voice, why are you here? But that is Becky Lynch's plates, completing the Grand Slam, so now you can call her, I guess, In Becks T or Grand Slam Becks or whatever you want to call her. But that is the Becky Lynch plates now on our NXT Women's title. Again, photos coming up on our social media coming up very soon, so be on the lookout for those. But that does bring it into our Plate Exchange show. I've given you guys hopefully some food for thought because, we always want the opportunity for you guys to feel like you can interact with us. We definitely want your feedback. We want you to make sure that you're taking the time to really think about beyond just what's going on in the ring. You're seeing a brand new WWE presenting itself, and we definitely want every opportunity for each person to enjoy this new WWE and what the future has in store. I'm certainly excited as a fan to see what it would look like without the influence of necessarily the McMahon family and the regime that we've been used to all these years. But I do feel like you've got the right people in place, and now can we continue forward? Join us tomorrow. We'll be back here on TikTok for Top Rope Spoilers, as we will be discussing this weekend's NXT No Mercy. NXT, of course, coming up here in about 2 hours, where they're going to fill out the rest of the card. We'll find out who Noam Dar's opponent's going to be for the Heritage Cup and what other matches are going to be added to the card. Will Dominic find his way back onto the card? Are the D'Angelo family going to potentially defend the tag titles? And what other matchups could potentially get thrown on the card here in the final week? So be sure to join us for that. We do have Fastlane coming up the following Saturday, which is on the WWE main roster, that being live from Indianapolis. We unfortunately do not appear like we're going to be able to attend that show, so we will be doing another follow or another watch along here. So be sure to join us also on TikTok for that. But we will see everyone tomorrow. Thank you for all that joined in to see us. If you're watching this on the YouTube follow through, or even if you're not, be sure to go onto our community page tomorrow. Today, if you're watching this on YouTube, because we are going to put out the official polls for the OTRAs to make their selections for No Mercy this weekend. So this is Steve with On the Ring Apron. Also, again, one last shout out to our Mania Club. Go on our Facebook page, look up Mania Club. We've got auction right now for a number of great items. As I said, my Fiend cosplay from a couple of years ago, as well as the head Bray Wyatt lantern, are both available on there. There are T-shirts, signed memorabilia, action figures, all kinds of fun stuff, and all of the proceeds are going to support Connor's Cure at the end of this Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. So definitely take the time to go represent. But this is Steve with On the Ring Apron. Listen, Kia will join me tomorrow, and we will see you guys then. Until then, have a good one.